We've got our final Suey category, Stugotz. It's lasted 2 weeks, and voting concludes at the end of this week, but the
voting on these two categories, we closed the voting for last week's categories already.
So revelations earlier this week, which was a little disappointing compared to the other. Usually, most years, we have great revelations. This was a down year for revelations. How did you feel about stories, Chris?
Stories is better. That's why I saved it for the end. It's just good. Like I had to cut. There were literally probably over 35 stories, and now it's cut down to like my favorite 9 or 10. So this is always revelation, and stories are always the hardest because there's just so many and they're long because you need context. So, but I feel really good about these final stories.
I think not having Whittingham around really screwed us with revelation. Yeah. He had the strangest one.
He would love to offer up his
he may
vulnerabilities.
be in story, by the way.
Let's see for ourselves. You get it. You know he's in story.
And now, the Suey nominees for Best Story. Mike Schur, naked guy at the gym story.
There was an NBC gym in 30 Rock, and I went once. And the reason I only went once is I went in and I saw a fairly famous person.
Name names.
Fully nude, 1 foot up on a bench, blow drying his undercarriage.
It was Offerman.
Names.
It was Offerman. It was Nick Offerman.
This is 1999 or 2000 or something.
If we guess it, will you tell us?
Roker.
I'm not. No, I won't tell you.
You won't.
Just blow drying soap.
Please be Stone Phillips.
But
Stones Phillips.
I'm not going to tell you who it was, but he was fully nude, no towel, no T-shirt, no nothing, 1 foot up, like full power hair dryer, maybe I don't know, 10 inches from his
blow drying my balls today.
It was, right? Brokaw?
I'm not going to say. There's nothing you can do to get me to say who this was. You can just guess all you want. You can fire as many guesses at me as you want.
Breaking news as I'm blow drying my ball sack today.
Brian Scalabrine, Celtics arm wrestling story.
For whatever reason, it was our 2008 team, and everyone was arm wrestling for whatever reason. That team was like borderline psychotic. But so KG and Big Baby are going to arm wrestle on the plane, and so they sit down, and I believe in Kevin Garnett. I will run through a wall. I think that dude can help us win. I think the world of him. If he says he's going to do something, I believe him. But for whatever reason, I did not believe, and nor did anybody on the plane believe that Kevin Garnett was going to beat Big Baby. So Paul Pierce stands up with the money, right? And he's like, I got all bets on Kevin Garnett. So I don't even gamble. I pulled out my 10s, my 1s, my everything. I put it on Big Baby, right? All the money was on Big Baby. So Paul Pierce has it must have been $10,000, $20,000. Guys, if you feel like there was free money out there, you would jump on that. So, all right, we got all this money on the plane. We got these two guys about to arm wrestle. And the arm wrestling starts, and KG just stares at Big Baby and doesn't move. And Big Baby's trying to get him down. And Garnett's kind of like stone-faced, not moving. He's like, I ain't moving, Funk. I'm not moving. And he kept saying that. And Big Baby kept trying and trying. All of a sudden, Kevin Garnett goes, there it is. And he starts to move. Big Baby starts getting worried. Man, he arm wrestled him. Paul Pierce is picking up all this money, and he's like, oh, I got the money. Kevin Garnett stands up, and he's drenched, sweating, and he turns around on the plane where there's like kids on the plane and media people and everything. Turns around and it's like, I'm the alpha male in this blankety blank. I'm the silverback gorilla in here. The whole plane was going nuts. The coaches were there watching. It was insane.
Bill Lawrence, Harrison Ford story.
My 2 meetings with Harrison Ford, he tried to murder me with tequila, both of them. He was an 80-year-old man. My wife and I lived down the street from him, and he's like, why don't you guys come up and have a drink? And I said, look, I'll come up there for a drink. But my kid's getting home from college tonight, and it's not going to be crazy. So he said, 1 drink. So I walked up to his house, and he met us at the door, and he said, we're going to have 1 drink. We should probably have shots first. So then he gave my wife and I shots on the way to the bar to get our 1 drink. And then he gave us both our individual bottles of tequila. He regaled us with stories of his life, which is more interesting than all our lives combined. And then I noticed my wife kind of, when people's eyes kind of lose focus, she was drifting in terms of needing to get home fast. She's like, I'm going to go to the bathroom really quick, but then we got to go home. And the second she walked out, Harrison Ford's like, if your wife's not here, I'm probably going to smoke a little pot. And I'm like, hey, more power to you, whatever you need to do, man. And then my wife came downstairs. We walked down to my house, and I had to hold her, or she would have become that ball from the Indiana Jones movie, just rolling like a stone down the hill. And I got her home, and Harrison Ford, 80 years old, he said, like, how fun was that? Onward. And then he sprinted back up the hill to his house. And I walked into my home, barely able to focus, because I was so drunk so fast. And my son was there. And I said, hey, man, good to see you. What time is it? And he said, 5:30 p.m. I don't know what just happened. I think Indiana Jones tried to kill me between 4:15 and 5:30. It was fantastic. That's how the guy lives his life.
Chelsea Handler, story of her mom saying she would never fly first class.
The first time I got on a plane with my mom, we walked by the first class, section. And I was like, whoa, what's this? What's this? And my mom's like, oh, don't worry, honey, this is first class. We're never going to fly first class. We have 6 children in our family. We can't afford that. And then 3 years later on my next flight, guess who? I was 13 years old. I had saved up all my babysitting money, and we were flying to California to visit my grandparents. And I got myself a first class ticket. And when we boarded that plane, I sat in 2A, and my mom looked at me and she said, honey, what are you doing? I told you we don't fly first class. And I was like, speak for yourself. I bought this ticket, and I will see you at the end of the flight.
Holy what is that? Like, what did that feel like? What did it feel like to be able to spit that at 13 years old?
It felt like the beginning of the rest of my life.
Chris Whittingham got recognized while pooping in a public bathroom.
It was at Highlight. A drunk fan of the show followed me into the bathroom. I had to, and so I took too long, and the guy shouts in the middle of the bathroom, hey, Whitty, in the bathroom. And I'm like, dude, I had to. I was trying to get away with it, so there's a very sort of effervescent man. He was sort of like, "Hey, big fan of the show," and he's in the bathroom, and he's shouting out, "Oh, there's a fancy lad in the stall," and I'm in there.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
sitting on the toilet. I'm like,
"Oh." So he was doing a routine.
Yeah, no, he was. He was holding court in the. He was holding court in the bathroom. There's a fancy lad in the stall.
That's fine.
I'm trying to be
confusing to a lot of people.
Got some bona fides to it.
Exactly.
Inside jokes.
I was trying to wait this guy out. That I would just be there long enough.
That guy out.
And
he leaves when you leave.
Belligerent.
Yep.
Belligerent about pointing out that I'm there, pointing out that I'm in the bathroom, and I'm waiting for him to for me to no longer hear his voice. He shut up for 2 seconds, and then the next things that he said was, "Whitty," and that was it.
Hank Azaria yelling at an NBA ref story.
In the fourth quarter, that terrible traveling call against Josh Hart. Did you see that? Ridiculous.
Yeah, of course.
Call.
Yeah.
And it cost us a pretty key three, because he had dished it off to Barrett, and Barrett hit a 3, and they brought it back. The ref happened to walk right by me right after that call. And like a good New Yorker, I yelled, "You blew that call!" right into his ear.
Right.
And he actually sincerely went, I know. I couldn't believe it. He just admitted it. I'm like, you admit it. Your Honor.
Jay Glazer leg kicking Sean McVay story.
So I'm sitting there at McVay's house one night, and we were having some cocktails. Him and Chris Schur, one of his linebackers coach, and he's like, "Hey, how hard could those leg kicks hurt? They can't be that bad." I'm like, "Sean, let's not do this." He said, "Come on, it can't be that bad." I'm like, "Sean, let's not do this." And he's like, and he keeps egging me on I said, "All right, mother." Wow.
Oh, no.
And I low leg kicked the shit out of Sean McVay.
No.
And he grabs his leg and goes, "Why would you do that?" I said, "Man, you asked me to." His leg turned black and blue for a week and a half. I had the picture for a while. And then he made Chris Schur do it. Schur's like, "I don't want to do this." "No, you got to do this." What? Got him too. And same thing. Schur's leg was worse. And then, but they all do. These guys are morons. Steve Keim asked me to do the same thing. I low leg kicked him, and the next day his Achilles tore.
No! Oh my God! Wait,
and he sent me a fake letter. They tried to get me to think it was real, that he was suing me for tearing his Achilles. But these people are morons. Like, dude, it's a low leg kick. I've been doing this shit for 30 years. Don't ask me to kick you. That's stupid.
Keeper of the Stanley Cup, Mike Bolt's story of being under attack while in Afghanistan with the cup.
Brought it over for the troops. We've been over there. We went there in 07, 8, and 10. And the first time we went over there, it was kind of an interesting story. One of the generals asked me if I'd take the cup to a FOB, a forward operating base. And I said, well, the league doesn't want me leaving Kandahar, but let me ask you this.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
Are you coming with? He goes, absolutely. So we get up in this big U.S. Chinook helicopter with the U.S. Marines. And that's when I realized I was in a war zone. Like, guns pointed. I'm like, holy cow.
Scary.
And anyways, we get to the FOB, and the place goes nuts that we're there. They were so happy to see us. We fly back to Kandahar, and I'm getting ready for a shower, and the air raid siren goes off. And I'm like, oh, that doesn't sound too good. So I'm looking around for some direction. There's nobody around. 5 minutes ago, there was people everywhere. So I'm like, all right, I have a towel around me. I'm sitting on the cup case, kind of looking at a magazine. I hear the fighter jets taking off. It stops after 15 minutes. I grab my shower. As I'm coming out of the showers, the guys were like, Mike, where were you during the missile attack? I'm like, what?
Oh, wow.
We were under attack. There were missiles flying into base. What were you doing? Oh, I was sitting on the Stanley Cup case, sitting, just keeping on, hanging out. They're like, holy crap, you're dedicated to your job. So to be under attack in the middle of a war zone, that was pretty wild. Now, I didn't see anything or any missiles, but apparently these Russian old Scud missiles that the Taliban have are pointed at the base trying to hit strategic targets. Most of them hit the road, but yeah, that was an experience for sure.
Mina Kimes' broken shoe story.
I went to this really fancy restaurant/club, and on the way to the bathroom, my shoe broke. The guy said that there was a store that I could buy a new shoe. I don't know why. I get this. So I leave the place. I walk on one barefoot, one shoe through Miami. I don't find, and no, I didn't even tell my party. So I'm walking. I don't see a store. I walk like a full block in downtown Miami.
You learn a phrase.
Pata sucia.
Dirty foot, because you're barefoot, right? Pata sucia, yes.
A couple of nice, well-meaning gentlemen offered to carry me somewhere.
Like Cleopatra? Like
I don't know. Like a very, very old man and a very, very young man both made that offer, which I feel like captures Miami pretty well. So anyways, I get to the store, and it's like a deli. I'm like, why did this guy think I would be able to get a shoe at a deli? So I walk back. I try to, and then so I'm walking up. There's a doorman to get. Why would a restaurant need a doorman? I don't know. And the guy looks at me and he's like, you can't come in. You have one shoe. I'm like, yeah, I have one shoe because your bus boy or whatever, somebody told me that there'd be a shoe. So he's just looking at me. And I was like, I went in with two shoes. You saw me. And he said, now you got one. Because I'm holding the other one.
Bert Kreischer, Will Smith's story.
The time I thought Will Smith wanted to have sex with me, it's just me getting in over my head.
Yeah. Go on.
6 months into comedy, and Will Smith's people discover me, and they're like, hey, man, we want to do a television deal. We think Will would like you, but you got to meet him. So I was like, okay. So they send me up to this recording factory, like the studio, and I'm like, I'm going to get this guy to love me. He sits down. I'm a whirlwind of personality. Dude, I love hip-hop. I love Jada. I love you. I love black people. You're black. I love I'm like hammering this guy. We talk for 35 minutes, and he just looks at me and goes, I like you. I go, I like you. He goes, what are you doing tonight? And I go, I don't know. And he goes, let's go to the movies. I go, cool. And then we leave. So I call my dad. My dad's a regular dude. He goes, how did it go? I go, it went great. He goes, tell me. I said, we're going to the movies. My dad's like, on a date? I go, no, I don't know. He goes, who else? I go, just me and him. And he goes, oh, buddy. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry this is happening to you. This is called the casting couch. What happens is these Hollywood stars have had sex with so many women that they're bored with having sex with women. The only thing that turns them on is the look on a young boy's face as they turn them into a gay guy. And I go, Dad, that's impossible. He goes, no, I heard about it. I'm telling you. I go, Dad, that's impossible. He goes, let me ask you a question. What's more likely? The fact that you're so talented that in 6 months of doing stand-up, the biggest movie star in the world wants to make a TV show about you, or that he's tired of having sex with women and I want to have sex with you. I'm like, I'm screwed. He's like, yeah.
Did you go to the movie afraid that you were going to have to ward off his advances?
I showed up. It wasn't even a movie theater. It was at Planet Hollywood, which is even weirder. So I'm sitting in the waiting room. Dude, 6'7", black guy comes in, sticks his head, and he goes, yo, you Bert? I go, yeah. And he goes, I'm Charlie Mack. I was like, oh, I'm going to have sex with this guy, too. Oh, my God, this is going to be a long night. I go downstairs. There's a folding room the size of a hotel room a room of folding curtains all around it, and there's 10 black dudes in there. And I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be a long night. I got these 10 black guys. I got Charlie Mack. I got Will Smith. I'm sure he's bringing Jazzy Jeff. That's 13 dudes. So I just sat there, and then Will walked in with Jazzy Jeff. I swear to God. Swear to God. He's like, yo, guys, this is the guy I was telling you about. And they all look at me like, oh, okay. And they start walking towards me. I'm like, all right, here we go. It's game time. and then the curtains open up behind me, and there's a private movie theater. And Will goes, grab us 2 seats. Me, you, and Jazzy will sit next to each other, and I'll get a shrimp. What do you want to drink? And we had Long Island iced teas, and we watched American Pie. And then at the end of the movie, it's a great movie. Obviously, it's a great movie. At the end of the movie, the lights come on, and he goes, so what'd you think? I said, it's a great movie. And he goes, no, about the room. I go, it's very nice. And he goes, no, about the guys in the room. I go, the guys in the room? He's like, yeah, what did you think? And I was like, I don't know. They're black? And he goes, hey, man, you said you were a hip-hop fan. That's Kumo D. That's Biz Marquee. That's Big Daddy Kane. And he walked, and I was like, I could have had sex with Biz Marquee.
My last year didn't have quite enough laughter in it, but I don't think I laughed harder on this show than when Chris Cody was trying to pretend to be the Stanley Cup during that interview with the guy who wasn't actually the protector of the cup. We learned days later that they sent us a fake cup with the second in command.
Brian Williams, apparently, over there in Afghanistan or whatever.
But Stugotz's favorite part of the story revelations was just Harrison Ford at 80 concluding afternoon drinking by sprinting up a hill and just saying, onward.
Onward. Sprinting away hammered.
You can hear him say it. You can see him saying it. It's something Harrison Ford would say and do. Onward.
He's got a lot of life at 80 years old, and I wanted to segue into something as Amin talks about O.J. Simpson getting old.
Hello.
And I really can't believe, Stugotz, that after the last decade of insanity in this country, that the best we could do at president is these 2 White Walkers that are just incredibly old, and you worry about the president of the United States dying of natural causes before democracy gets threatened again in 2024. But the audio and the video that I wanted to play for you in the audience, because I can't believe that this is something that's happening, which is that the power gluttony is such, and it doesn't matter what you have to do to just keep the power, that Mitch McConnell would be in one of the most powerful positions at a time that the United States needs real leadership, and is so old that what is happening to him in press conferences is just freezing.
This week has been good bipartisan cooperation and a string of
Are you good, Mitch?
Okay, Mitch. Anything else you want to say, or should we just go back to your office? Do you want to say anything else to the press? Let's go back.
Go ahead, John.
I'll take it back. Let's go back to you.
Go ahead, John.
How can we not do better than this? That's the first time it happened. Then it happened a second time. It's a little shorter, slightly less awkward, but it happened a second time.
Senator, you're up for election in 3 short years. What are your thoughts on it?
I'm sorry, I had a hard time hearing you.
That's okay. What are your thoughts on running for re-election in 2026?
What are my thoughts about what?
Running for re-election in 2026.
That's
Did you hear the question, Senator? Running for re-election in 2026? All right, I'm sorry, you all. We're going to need a minute. Senator. Benny.
How?
She did not do him any favors.
Just like right up on him, just like.
Did you hear the question, Senator? Jeez.
How about the first one? Do you have anything further to say to the media? I can't speak.
Well, I like that one was as awkward as it was. At least the people around him were a little bit more subtle. Like, hey, Mitch, you good? Mitch, you want?
But it's not subtle. We all know what they're doing. Like they walk up and they're like, "Hey, Mitch." They just asked you another question. It's like, yeah, we.
No, but that, Chris,
they're trying.
Would you rather have someone? Hey, you all right or whatever? Did you hear them? They asked you about re-election.
Mitch, like waving hands.
Yeah, the problem was that he couldn't hear it.
And
that was the problem.
And then she turns and says, Mitch is gonna need a second, and she winks. Like, what are you doing?
My guess is he's got people around him who need to speak a little bit louder sometimes because his hearing is one of the malfunctions in that video. But the idea that our leaders look like that, sound like that, act like that, I'm not even partaking in just your rampant ageism. That's not someone who should be leading people in that condition, making important decisions and blockading the leadership of others just because the power grab is so overt now in politics that it isn't about competence. It's just about how do I retain power for my party.
You know, Dan, I often talk about what Mitch McConnell doesn't want. I don't want that. I've talked about it. I've spent a lot of time with Michelle, Sasha, Malia, and Mitch McConnell. We don't want that. Folks across the aisle agree with me. That's unacceptable.
You found it there. It was a little rough go at the beginning. You found it.
You were searching for it. It's a
the
little
beginning.
rusty.
When you get to the kids, you start to
well,
feel
the kids, it's the staple. It's
Play the
your
hits.
crutch. The kids is consistent. You're the comedian who knows where the laughs are, and you say the names of the kids, and that buoys you. It sends you into the sky with confidence.
It's a great rhythm builder. Now, Mitch McConnell can't build any rhythm. That's kind of obvious when you look at him. Just freeze up right there. And what's the name of that young lady?
I don't know. I don't know the name of
She
the
did him no favors. No favors.
You mentioned that as a meme before. There were no favors to be done. Once your congressman is frozen and not speaking and disoriented and can't hear, who can do him any favors? How was that going to get salvaged? You're being a classic second guesser. You tell me how that was going to be salvaged.
She could have distracted from the situation. Well, perhaps tumbling off camera and going, ow, my ankle. And then people would rush to her aid, and then we can sneak Mitch McConnell out the back.
You know what? I stand corrected.
The old back door.
There's a fire.
That would have been better.
Look over here.
She should have flopped. She should have faked an injury.
Maybe doing the Family Guy.
My
over
water
and over.
broke.
I mean, Ramona Shelburne is doing some original reporting here on the James Harden situation. And James Harden, transition, is...
How fun was that? Onward.
The greatest trade asker in the history of sports. I enjoyed a headline the other day, Stugotz, from James Harden's agent, in which James Harden's agent said he's going to report in the best shape of his life, and I expect him to be in the MVP conversation. And I'm like, why is anyone putting a headline on this? Why is anyone talking to this person? But now there's some new reporting, because this is weird, Stugotz. It is. Daryl Morey and James Harden have done a lot for each other. They have both been a partnership that has created a lot of opportunity for both of them. I specifically remember James Harden's quote of "Coach be trippin'" when Mike D'Antoni said James Harden was going to average 15 assists a year in their new offense. And even James Harden didn't believe that they would turn him into the player that they turned him into. What is interesting about Shelburne's reporting here, Amin?
Well, Billy's the one that brought it to my attention, which was James Harden obviously last year was not an all-star. By all accounts, he was kind of very hurt by that. But we did not know the extent. Billy, do you want to share what actually happened with the All-Star game?
It turns out that he was invited to be a replacement All-Star, but according to Ramona Shelburne, he never got back to Adam Silver because he was, quote, pouting. the entire time. And then by the time he decided to get back to Adam Silver, they had already replaced him as a replacement. And then he had to make this big stink about how his streak was over, and the 76ers apparently knew what was going on, but they had to find the balance between supporting James Harden and not upsetting Adam Silver, knowing full well that he was an all-star but didn't get back in time. So they had to pretend that they didn't know that this happened.
That's insane. The idea that you get a call from the league saying, hey, you've been chosen as an injury replacement. You're going to be an all-star. No one ever remembers, by the way, years later, who was an injury replacement and who was an actual all-star. They just see 7-time all-star, 12-time all-star, whatever.
The player does, though.
Sure,
Right.
but, like, again, this wasn't a case where your pride would get in the way to that extent. And my favorite part was, if he had never gotten back, maybe like, hey, I'm not going to be no injury all-star. That's – what the hell?
It's just video that only you're seeing. And
Okay,
for some
sorry.
reason, you're getting distracted by
That
video
MF
only
right there
you're
ain't
seeing.
real. Okay, got it.
The what the hell was warranted, though. I was with you. Yeah.
I heard it in my headset too. But the thing about Harden was he got back to him like 4 days later, like it was a girlfriend or something. Like, you know what, I'll call her on my own time. That's not how this thing works. The other part that's really interesting is that he thought he was going to get a new deal from the Sixers, but Daryl Morey wasn't returning his calls. So that's why he got upset. That's why he opted in and asked for a trade. Daryl Morey said, the reason I didn't call you back was because we just got hit with tampering charges a year ago. I didn't want to have the same thing happen. But apparently James has built this whole thing in his head that the world is against him and all that stuff. But I think the most important thing that we learned here is it wasn't my fault. Look, I tried to coach him hard. I tried to do the right thing. We all have to sacrifice. But James, he's just mad. He's mad because he wants to shoot all the time. And ultimately, you know, I got fired for it because he couldn't play in Game 7.
It's a tough one.
It feels like it hurts.
It's not fair.
That impersonation feels like it hurts you.
It hurts. It hurts almost as much as getting fired.
He's deep in character.
Were you a theater kid? Like you're very theatrical.
Why am I?
Yeah.
Well, you know, growing up in the mean streets of Chicago, you have to be able to act a little bit, you know.
He's deep in character. We can't pull him out.
But what character?
That
Was
is
Billy
Doc
asking
Rivers.
Doc or Amin?
Well, that's the thing. It's Doc now. It's Amin.
Say his kid's name. Say Austin.
Amin can't just come back here.
Found it. There you go.
There it is.
I'm sorry, did you say theater kid?
Mitch McConnell.
Did you ever run into Barack Obama in Chicago?
I have a couple of times. I'm a big fan.
What was that conversation like?
Well, I'll let Barry know. I'll let Barry tell you. Hey, Barry. Yeah, Doc? What'd we talk about that one time we ran into each other? I've never met you in my life, Doc. Wait, what? We played golf together. No, that was Bill Cartwright.
How fun was that? Onward.
Tough spot, I mean.
Apologies for the disgusting turn of phrase and for Billy Gill dropping an anvil on the desk behind me. But I feel like we left some meat on the diarrhea plain bone. Without getting like too disgusting, I feel like there's more to discuss there.
No, it's going to get more disgusting. Like, brace yourselves. If you're like, you know what, you guys talk too much, this isn't the segment for you.
Sometimes
This
I'm
isn't
okay
for
with a
that.
little meat left on the bone, though. I don't need like these people that they put the wing in their mouth and they pull the and it's just
Oh,
like
no.
completely.
I need
It's
that-
just like, hey,
I don't leave meat on the bone.
if
Suck
there's
it
just-
dry.
I don't
hate
like the
that,
person
yes.
you're at the wing place with,
What?
and they're like, "Oh, you're gonna leave that?" It's like, yeah, I'm done with it.
No,
okay?
it's not just that. It's like, that's not meat. That's like tendons
Right,
and
like-
stuff. Like, that's not meat.
That's
I'll
cartilage.
eat that.
cartilage. Yeah, like, why are you eating that?
Chew on that.
Would you?
I'll eat all of it.
Oh, no way.
I'll eat the bone.
But what do you think needs to be said here that wasn't said earlier about the diarrhea plane? The idea of having to go to the bathroom that way on an airplane seems really uncomfortable. Those airplane toilets they're in the porta potty sphere of being awful. Just not a place you ever want to have to do that in.
They're terrible. I agree with you. This person was clearly very sick. This is not just someone who went to the varsity at the Atlanta Jacksonville, Hartsfield, whatever it's called. Jackson, yes, thank you. And ate some greasy burgers and then had an accident. This is someone who was very, very ill. But I'm with Dan. I was on a flight recently, and I was in the bathroom, and I was thinking about how the airplane bathroom technology has not improved in like 50 years. Like, they make it terrible for anyone who's going in there to do more than just a number one. And if you're on an international flight, they should make it so that the other passengers aren't inconvenienced by the one guy like on Samson's plane who has to do a number two. And it's terrible. Like, there should be at least one emergency bathroom for very sick people on each flight.
But see,
That's a good idea.
How much tech are you guys looking for? At some point, they're trying to cram as many seats into this plane as possible, right? So someone's got to sit next to this place. You're always what the hell is that smell? Am I tripping? I can smell it right now. It's a Randy Levine situation happening right now in our studio right now.
I have smelled it throughout the show. I didn't want to say anything. I'm serious.
Okay. We've got one hell of a whodunit over here. A glass onion, if you will.
Whoever smelt it dealt it.
There it is. I'm the silent one. I knew that was coming.
Well, technically, if it's who smelt it dealt it, it'd be a mean.
I don't know what the smell is.
I'm being 1,000%. Stugotz, am I lying?
No.
I don't smell it.
Someone's tooting?
That's
because we don't have a bathroom for sick people at this office. We
There
have
you
two
go.
very public bathrooms that
you don't-
anyone can go in and out of.
You don't want to incentivize people to use a bathroom on
it's
an
for
airplane, though.
emergencies. It's
Yeah,
for
but if it's
emergencies.
nicer, people are going to be like, I'll just go to that bathroom.
Especially, like you want to wait in line
There's
for
a
the.
social contract.
No, people are going.
No. The emergency bathroom cannot be nicer than the other bathrooms. You can't do that because Billy's right. Everyone will sprint to the emergency bathroom.
It
No.
can't get worse.
If you board a plane sick, you should not get something that's nicer than the rest of us. You should get something that's worse, smaller.
I doubt they were sick when they boarded. Because if you have that sort of problem, you're not getting on a transatlantic flight to Barcelona.
I think that you have the bathroom be crappy so that people, no pun intended,
Crappy.
people do not want to use it, right? You don't want it to be nice, then everyone will be going in there.
We're celebrating the wrong person today. The person that should be celebrated is, there was a man or a woman that got up and went to go check on the person. Because, you're sitting in an aisle seat and this person, you just see the trail. There's got to be someone on the planet that's we should check on this person. Who's the person that stood up, stepped over to get to the thing and was like, hey, are you okay in here? Is everything or is everybody just mortified and they shamed this person? There had to be people trying to help.
How'd they get off the plane? Did they have to, was it like Indiana Jones where they had to carefully match their steps?
You got to do the wheelchair.
Everyone had to wheelchair. No, I'm
Oh,
talking about
no,
everybody.
everyone
else on the plane.
With the sick person.
And by the way, wheelchair wouldn't do shit. Sorry, no pun intended. Look at all that. It wouldn't do shit. Look, what were they wearing? That was what my number one question. Look at how much crap is in the aisle. This is only possible if someone was just bare-assed running down the aisle.
Shout out to the person who also just went by and looked like they were just dropping napkins on top.
Cocktail
They're
napkins.
not actually cleaning it up. Just as you scroll through the aisle, just like someone walked by and was like, "Here you go. That needs a napkin."
It's
that
more
needs a
than you
napkin."
would do, though.
I'm just saying.
That's the Indiana Jones. That's the steps they're supposed to take in order to get out.
I wish I
Support
could have been a
napkins.
fly on the wall on this plane of just
Why?
seeing the people that are helping.
There were
I want to know
plenty.
the helpers. Someone in 7D that's you know what? This is a rough day for this person. I'm going to get up and go check on them.
Nobody's helping that person.
Someone in my
on.
ear has just let me know that someone was spraying sort of a vanilla scent on top of the diarrhea, so you can get, vanilla scented diarrhea, I guess.
I want you all to think for a moment about how impossibly vulnerable that person felt waddling through that aisle.
Let's try to get him on.
You can't be like Randy.
gonna
You
make
can't
it?
be
Am I
Randy
gonna make
Levine
it?
denying it. You can't. You can't coat it in lies and vanilla scent.
Are there apologies happening as you make your way down the aisle? I'm
sorry.
sorry.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
I'm
please.
sorry.
Oh, it never happened before. This never happened before. Had to be said.
No, this person, I feel terrible for this person. None of it makes sense also because this plane got diverted back to Atlanta, and then we found out about this a couple days later because the pilot's message to the FAA is public. So flight enthusiasts heard that biohazard comment, and then it became public, and now it's a big story. It's blowing up. And the person who was sick on the plane got home and they're like, well, at least no one's going to find out about this. And then a couple days pass and still no one found out about it. Now they're sitting there waiting for their identity to be leaked probably, and they probably feel terrible.
I was going to say, shout out to HIPAA, right? Because we don't know who this person is.
Yo, their identity is leaking just like they
The
were.
rare shout out to HIPAA.
I like the idea that there's some sort of pact that had happened on the plane of like they're making eye contact with the other guys. You're not going to tell anybody about this, right? You're not going to tell anybody. Nobody's going to find out about this. And then ultimately,
Am I
it's the
crazy to
voiceover.
assume this person was wearing a dress or a skirt? Because how would this have left through someone's
shorts, no underwear,
shorts or pants?
Shorts.
Starting to
It
narrow
has
it down.
to be.
You have to wear underwear if you're going to Spain from Atlanta.
You don't have to.
You can't free-ball that flight. I'm sorry. That's crazy.
I think that
gushing out.
the liquid can slide down the leg no matter what the undergarments are, especially
heard.
given the amount that we're looking at in these photos. I do need to right now, though. This has been a long time coming today, and I would say over the course of my journalism career, I don't believe I've needed to offer someone an apology more than Yankee President Randy Levine. Because we keep showing,
I can't look at him.
We keep showing his photo here after David Sampson's story of him stinking up a private plane. The haircut does him no favors. The smile does him no favors. And I just feel terrible for him as we continue to mock him as being the denier of making poop smells in a private plane that the Wilpons didn't like.
So the picture looks like someone had just ran up on him and said, "Hey, Randy, you did take a dump on that plane, didn't you?" And he's looking at like, "Yeah,
it was me.
I got it, did. It was me."
He looks more like a professional clown without makeup than Nick Nurse.
No.
He does. What do you mean, no?
I thought that was Matthew Berry.
Oh, my God.
No, he runs a balloon shop. He's a professional clown who runs your local balloon shop. Totally different professional clown. Tell me Randy Levine doesn't look like a professional clown not wearing his makeup.
How fun was that? Onward.